Boarding on. I just wanted to be sure that if somebody did try to get in, that they could.
Good morning. Call meeting order, the CDC Finance Committee, ask for approval of the October 15th, 2024 minutes. Is there a motion? Second. All in favor? Aye. Move on to the treasurer's report.
Good morning. This is, I want to thank Kat Leiden for getting us this information. It's in draft form since it is the 7th of the month. But we do have balance sheet and P&L for 12/31/24. Looking first at the balance sheet, we have been working with RBT advisors in an effort to reconfigure the balance sheet. We've got a little more work to do. You can see that at the top where it says loan CEDC cash accounts, I'm much working to get that down to where it's right above loan SBA cash accounts, so that we can then have a line, total available to lend. I was a little concerned with the operating cash. As you can see, it's down 169,000. We are down $70,000. We have 2 quarters receivable from the SBA. We normally would have received one of those by now. So that's $70,000. And they just advised us that it had been approved yesterday, Martha?
Well, it was approved in October. I don't.
Yeah, I think what.
It's been approved again.
Yeah, so, but they did email us yesterday that we could expect it soon. So I do want to watch that. I think where that concern is not something new. What it is we're breaking even, if you will, on a P&L basis, but we're putting all the $100,000 of interest from the loan fund into the loan fund. And so I do think, we are going to have to start, looking at that. We do keep the interest from the SBA loans in the loan fund, so we have the 15% to borrow the next tranche of funding. When we draw it down, we have to match it, and we'd otherwise have to use cash. But I do have some additional material to review after the P&L and the balance sheet regarding the loan fund to focus in on that. As we go further down, you'll see we do have $302,000 in cash for the SBA loan fund reserve. That's on top of the allocation of for bad debt on the balance sheet down below. As a result, because of the loan fund, it appears that we do have $127,000 more cash than we did, but I do want to go back and look at that operating cash fund. When we look at accounts receivable, we've been carrying $18,000 in accounts receivable for 2 years for broadband. The issue that we've had is the county has been so supportive of us financially that and because we were able to get a broadband grant going forward for $60,000 a year for 2 years, I'm proposing that we just write that off. It's very difficult when the county is giving us $740,000 back and say, we need 18. Especially since it is one of our strategic initiatives, and it is coming to an end. So, I would recommend to the committee that we write that off.
Why did you create that receivable?
Because we spent the money. Right? And I want to at least track it.
Yep.
And, it was authorized by the board that we would spend $1,000 a month as a retainer to the broadband consultant. And, when you look at the success of that effort, this year we expensed it because I realized I didn't want the county if there was funding available, but now their ARPA money is gone. They don't have a source to pay that 18. And so I think it just makes sense to clean it up where we have a $60,000 net income. The Columbia Forward line, Kat and I have to go through that. That should be, they paid us through December. So I don't know why there's a negative 5,000, but we will get that cleaned up. One of the things that happened there was mid-year, because of our conversations with RBT, we had been only booking our, on Columbia Forward, the county gives us $150,000 a year. We split that where we take $20,000 off the top and split 130 with the chamber. What they were doing was only, UHY had us only booking our share of it and not expensing the chamber's share. And RBT had us reverse that. So I think that once we go back in and check how those adjustments were done, that, you know, that'll be, there's no receivable there, that money's been collected. The Land Conservancy and the Bella is related to IDA projects, and when they close, they'll pass on those. As you continue down, you'll see the loans receivable from the SBA are now at $1.3 million. But when we get into the details of the loan fund, you'll see that, you know, we have more than adequate collateral to repay that in the ordinary course of business, let alone in a event where loans have not repaid us. The Office of Community Renewal Grants, these are the 4 grants that were awarded to the county. The county subgranted them to us, and we subgranted them to the 4 businesses that are reflected there. After 2 years, they evaporate. In the early years here, we did not set it up where there was an asset and a liability, so that when it was extinguished, we were taking a hit. So you'll see on the liability side of the balance sheet that there's a mirror image for those 4. As we turn the page, you know, our fixed assets are our fixed assets. We do have $232,000 booked for land that we own up on Route 9H. It's a 6-acre parcel. You know, that's at our book value. If we were to sell it, it would be at a higher price than the appraised value is higher than what we're carrying it at. And the right of use asset is a calculation, as you know, that's done at year end based on the leases. And that basically takes care of our assets. On the liability side, we are ahead on accounts payable, and on the deferred revenue box, which I highlighted, the Columbia County Forward Grant was where the county gave us $50,000, up to $2,500 grants to loan clients. We've given out all of those loans. I'm not exactly sure why there's a $950 negative in that account, but we are gonna zero that out. The deferred income that's shown for Columbia Housing and Columbia County monies, the $25,000 was a fee that they paid us in year 1 to get it as a startup fee, but I just expensed the startup costs. And the $42,005, they paid us for a full year when we only started the project in July. And so, you know, I did defer this. Now as you're aware, both the housing project and the Columbia Forward project has been extended a full year. So these will stay on our books until we get to the end of that time period, and then we'll have an extra 3 months on housing and an extra 6 months on Columbia Forward. as revenue in 2026. You'll see just below that are the mirror image liabilities for the grants I mentioned above. We will figure out why we clean up the 2 cents on the payroll liabilities. Pleased to report that, we did take a $100,000 EIDL loan back during COVID. The county in the first year had reduced our county commitment by 20%, which was $90,000. We were fortunate to get, $42,000 back from PPP that year, PPP 1. We were not aware that there would be a PPP 2 at that point. And so I think, as you know, we took that loan out so that if we did get hit another 20% from the county in the second year of COVID, we would be able to not have to disrupt our operations. We did put it on a 5-year payout. It's at 2.75% with a 30-year payout. And I'm pleased to see that coming down as planned. Again, you can see our loans as a liability from the SBA is up 300,000, and we're looking to borrow more from them. So that's basically the balance sheet. It's pretty stable, once I can get it to where I just want to move down that CEDC loan fund bank balance so that we can show a line that shows total cash available for loans. Any questions on the balance sheet? Jumping to the P&L. On our administrative revenue, we are down $37,000, primarily because the kicker for the Hudson and County IDA projects did not materialize as budgeted. Primarily a timing issue. On the city side, we had expected the K&R housing project to have closed, which in and of itself would have been, covered 28,000 of the deficit. We also anticipated the Elks Club hotel project closed. Those are both on the calendar for 2025. We had expected additional grant funding from additional revenue from the Office of Community Renewal Grant Administration. That's a program where we bring the recipient is eligible for $15,000 per job, and we don't advance the money to them until they're able to demonstrate the jobs, and they have 2 years from the time the grant was awarded to prove that they have the jobs. So it's conservative. We could have taken the fee up front, but if there was a clawback because they didn't create the jobs, we would be in a situation where we'd have a reversal. Brian had called me about the grant income. The Columbia County Grant Program was the grant, a $50,000 grant program I mentioned just a moment ago, where the county gave us funds to basically supercharge the loans we were making to clients up to $25,000. We had done in 2023, we did net 23.2, and this year we did the 26.8, so we're done there. Bangladesh Climate and Land Grant Trust, those are 3 grants, and also Matson Park. Those are 4 grants where we acted as a fiscal agent, with respect to Bangladesh and Maston Park, the Galvin Foundation made the grant to CEDC, and we agreed to use those funds on behalf of the Bangladesh Festival and improvements to the Maston Park in the town of Stockport. You can see I've added a column to the far right with respect to Bangladesh. We netted out the 5,000. We reported the grant is closed. Both sides complied with all of the terms of the fiscal agency agreement. With respect to the climate forum, you can see we spent $3,000 more, when you get down to the expense side, because what I did in the new column at the far right was put what the expenses were. That was a commitment we made to the county to run a climate forum independent of, the grant, and we're going to move that down to the new initiative expense category, so that the grant, under the fiscal agency agreement matches the, amount that was raised from the participants. The 4,734 came from either donations or people who rented booths at the event, and the funds were spent for the event that was held at the county fairgrounds in September. With respect to the grant for the land trust, the City of Hudson contacted us day or two before the deadline for the grant that they had intended to apply for. And so they had just came to their attention that you had to be a not-for-profit to apply for the grant. And so we stepped in and did a fiscal agency agreement with them. They've spent $16,751. Is this a $20,000 grant?
Yeah, it's 2 tranches of 10.
2 tranches of 10. So, we do owe them $3,200, and we'll have to find out where the other 10 got booked. Maybe it hasn't been drawn down.
Well, I think that's the 10 that we want to take out too. We're trying to negotiate that with HCR.
So we'll get that cleaned up for the auditors, and Supervisor Morel in the town of Stockport has the invoices to present to us to clean up the Marston Park grant, and I'm after him to deliver them so we can clear that up as well. This micro enterprise grant round 1, $286,000. That was the $300,000 grant that we received from the state for purposes of providing new businesses or businesses that were less than 2 years old up to $25,000. Martha and Steve did a wonderful job creating that program and implementing it on a fast track. We were entitled to take a $30,000 administrative fee. I was wrong when I looked at this last night, Brian. We netted out, what you'll see is the total income for the grant program matches the total expense for the grant program, and I said, I thought we took some fee. We did. And what we did is we netted it out when the 300,000 came in. So we only applied the net amount to grant income. I think with respect to the fiscal agency role, I think it does put us in the role of being a quick facilitator. They're generally small dollar amounts, and we do have a standard form agreement that Andy Howard has reviewed and that we use so that there is documentation for the auditors at the end of the year. I think the accountants have told us in the past they prefer if we can get the money in and out in the same year. And part of it is because these are organizations that are in the process of applying to be a 501c3 in most instances. And you don't want to give them an easy way out of not having to go through that process, because they're generally small organizations and they don't have staff or resources to do it right. So we want to force them to do it right by not being the path of least resistance for them. But in their startup or in their in a short-term crisis, we're happy to step up and help. I think the most interesting one we did was for the town of New Lebanon, when we were the fiscal agent for the Lincoln Memorial Train event, and it was the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's remains being taken from Washington to Illinois, and they passed through New Lebanon on their way to Albany.
Doesn't seem like a very good route.
Well, I guess it was, I guess they had a festival and they had
Yeah.
a couple hundred people come out and but,
Or I
it's
should say,
kind of.
it doesn't seem like a straight route, I
Yeah.
guess. I should say.
Well, I think they wanted to go to Boston, and then they kind
Oh,
of
okay.
meandered him to state capitals, on the way, and,
It was more they were touring
Yeah.
than driving.
Yeah.
yeah,
They were
And,
touring and,
yeah.
and kind of, it reminded me though of President Carter's, comment apparently that, they wanted to bring him from Atlanta to Washington today by train, and he said, if you take my cold dead body by train instead of airplane, I'm gonna haunt you for the rest of your lives.
Right.
So, but, it does show that, we, as a country, we continue the tradition, which is a good thing,
Yeah.
to honor our past leaders. Membership and sponsorship, we were only $2,000 under budget, but that's because we, had, I think it was $11,000 of accrued, membership from last year. I am a little concerned about we did send out 300 plus membership letters, I haven't had a chance to check, on January 6th of 23 and 24, how much have we brought in? But, I think it's under $10,000 that we brought in.
I'll say for mine that I got maybe, I can't even,
Two?
no, I mean, I remember like Hudson Little League, like they
Oh, the same-
all
came the same
came,
week.
when I came back, I was like, oh my
Oh,
gosh, let me just go through all
Yeah.
these, but I have to close all my stuff for the year
Yeah.
too, so
Yeah.
I feel like I wouldn't get worried until like
Yeah,
third week, end of.
well, I
third
think, we just have to
Yeah.
figure out what's an appropriate,
Timeframe.
Yeah.
timeframe to
I know we
follow
got
up.
ours, but like, it's
It'll-
during a time where like a lot of people are out in the office and you're.
And I think
And
because,
comparatively, I will say this. It's low.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, it is lower, not that
The dollar amount.
the dollar amount is lower than a lot of other
Yeah.
business things that I got in the mail, donation asks that I got in the mail, et cetera, just across the
Yeah.
board. So
Well-
I don't know what that means, and I think you've said that before, that you're not trying to,
well, I think
you know,
that
the
part of it is
business
people
coalition.
have the resources to become a member.
Yeah.
Know that we get significant funds from the county, and I've had a couple business owners say, hey, we gave it the office, At the same time, I think, part of, Jim Calvin's goal is for us, and, his dear friend Rick Recker was working on it with us, how to market ourselves to show to that business community that we're not, as strong as a resource as our loan program is, or helping people get grants. If you're not getting a grant or getting a loan, do other people see the value and benefit of that? And so I do think we have to, better tighten up our elevator speech so that when we're talking with people, and what added value can we provide? I know Hudson Valley Economic Development, they put out a separate e-news quarterly that's called C-Suite, where, they try to give people some information that they might not otherwise get. But, some of our project, information before the project goes public is confidential. And so it's a delicate balance, but we do have to focus on it because I think as grant funding shifts, and not knowing what the SBA's role is going to be in the new administration, I think we, that is something that I'm, highlighted on this for a reason. I know from time to time, there have been questions as to what our other income is. And, so I did take a look at that. It's primarily, closing fees, and, late fees. We do charge generally $250 for a loan closing.
10%.
10% of the loan?
Yeah.
And, the bulk of,
1%, sorry, 1%.
the bulk of what we, ended up collecting, under other income, was closings. And, Jim Calvin did contribute, the funds for the rendering of Dave Finger for the, annual meeting. So, although but when it all comes in under $300, well, it becomes a real number, and we just wanted you to know what was, in that had come up previously. You can see that we're up on the SBA grant because we did get an increase. There was a formula that we found online, which would infer that based on the volume we did this year, we should get another increase, but again, we're, with the continuing resolution, presumably the funding is there because it was in last year's budget. There's, the SBA related industry association press is uncertain as to what the new administration's focus is going to be with SBA funding overall. Our bad debt expense this year was $3,500. That was a very small amount. We will get to the bottom line here and discuss what our recommendation is with respect to moving to increasing the loan loss reserve when we get to looking at the loan fund. I highlighted the meeting and events. That was the annual meeting. And once Kozel closed, we ended up, we have to look at how we can, get closer to what our budget was, which is based on what we had spent in the past. But when you went off-site and everything was in, the caterer was separate, the event space was separate, the rental of tables and chairs was separate, the AV stuff. But and we've talked about other organizations like ours charge for it, some a minimal charge, others, a big charge to make money. I don't know that in our community charging would necessarily, even if it was $25 to $35, right? If we had 150 people there, is it one less thing that we would attract people? And what do you do with elected officials and not-for-profit leaders? I mean, I do think it's a legitimate expense and it's worth doing as a free event. I know other economic development organizations have golf outings, but when you put the amount of work into that and you are competing with the chamber and the other not-for-profits, I don't find that to be an effective.
There's so much golf now.
Yeah.
Like, it's like,
And then we all have to go to it, right? Now, you just,
Yeah.
if you factor what you spent and the day of the staff being at the event all day,
yeah,
what did you make?
yeah, because in most cases, you're sending 4 people.
Yeah.
And I have some people in the summers now going like multiple times per week, it's like, it's a lot.
And it makes us, I think, perceived as a different type of organization, and so, again, I do think we have to look at, when you look at how to raise money from the membership and sponsorship line.
I wonder if we could shave off a little just by booking a little early, like little tiny things like that, just like booking a little earlier, sometimes they'll
Yeah.
offer.
Do it like a wedding on a Friday.
Exactly.
Well, you think it would be enough to say, to get a discount, to have your meeting be at 7:30 in the morning.
Exactly.
But they don't.
Well, and I
And
think,
like we already know the date for it right now.
and I think the other part of it is, we did get them, they wanted more, and
Yeah.
we told them that we'd make them a sponsor. So,
Okay.
we got, anyway. Our employee expense, -78, it's gonna, when I adjust for the, we accrued the 401k as if we had filled the position, and we had accrued, the vacation buyback for the 2 legacy, employees at a higher amount, so we'll be closer to 85,000 negative, and that, is consistent with what, the empty position for the year would have been with that. The grant expense, I think I explained that, up above when we looked at the income. And I did want to highlight our micro business, expense. We budgeted 65 and, we spent 53. So that money comes from the SBA and it's reimbursable, so I think that gives us a little bit more to spend perhaps next year. because the SBA grant is July 1 through June 30th. The new initiatives, you can see, we did spend quite a bit more this year on broadband, but we included it under new initiatives as opposed to hoping to get the county to reimburse us. Some of that we will be able to justify for the grant that we received from the state for reimbursement, but you can only get reimbursed by the state once a year, at the end of each of the 2 years that the grant is for. So it'll be reimbursed in July when we are able to submit a requisition. Our housing initiative, we did budget from the county money for some expense. We were under budget there. I do have to go back and look what the $5,000 new initiative was that we didn't put a designation on. Kat, could you go check just what that was, please? And then we did apply for a USDA grant. It cost us $3,500 to do the application. We just were notified that we didn't get it. We are gonna have a debriefing with them to find out why. If we can resubmit it, we won't have to spend that much on the application. And the $15,000 of new initiatives related to the commitment that the board made to the community college for their one of their initiatives. We did better this year budgeting for office expense. Last year, I think we were $30,000 over budget. So I was pleased to see that. I did highlight other office expense similar to our other office income. And when I looked at that $3,800, there was nothing over $230. It was paying the city. The city provides for the Hudson IDA. We're the administrative director. We pay someone who works for the city to do the minutes at $60 a meeting. We did have we do publish ads for certain meetings. We used to do every meeting, but we now, because of the change during COVID, the state allows you to do it online. We did have ads for employment positions and the Business Review, the Times Union, and certificates of state or good standing certificates for some of the loan clients. Which basically, it's not a lot of money, but it was more than 25 or 30 individual expenses.
It's Patterns for Progress.
Okay, it was a part of our fee for Patterns for Progress, the 5,000. But let's figure out where we can do that so that it's clearer on the line item. We did have $2,600 in interest on the EIDL loan. We did have we're within 1% on legal and accounting, although accounting was higher than budgeted and legal was less. I think as we get further into the updates that RBT did, that we won't need that service at the level that they had to charge. Our public relations were under budget by $224. Our SBA income, loan expense, they're now charging us interest on some loans. We're over budget by $500. And so, I think overall the budgeting was very tight. Our net operating income here is $60,000. If we take the $18,000 off, it'll be $42,000. We had the board, I think, as I recall, it authorized. I had recommended $25,000 to add to the reserve fund, and it authorized up to $35,000. I'd like to stick with the $25,000, and we can ratify that at the board meeting. That will bring us somewhere down where we had some profit. You're not supposed to make a profit in a not-for-profit, but you're supposed to make enough to cover your expenses and support our mission. And I think, when you look at the new initiative expense and you look at the technical assistance expense and you look at the other expense that, I do like to see 20 to 25% of our revenue go to direct support of the mission beyond staffing and overhead. One thing I did miss going through this was on the office expense, or I guess it's up above, I did highlight it, but didn't mention it, under employee expense right above grant. We were $4,700 over budget on facilities, but you'll recall we paid a $5,000 fee for the lease extension. Any questions on the P&L? The final sheet I have here, and there's a corresponding report with it. Kind of focus in on the loan fund. What I did is I took the balance sheet and just aggregated the categories that relate to the loan fund. So you can see right now we have $699,000 available to lend from the CEDC loan fund. That's $167,000 more than last year available. On the SBA side, we have $400,000, which is $91,000. At the same time, it's the year we've done the most loans, but we did get a big influx of SBA money this year, and we did have we had the repayment of the WIC hotel loan when they sold it. But it shows the hard work that Martha and Steve do to get the money on the street, because with a 5 to 7 year payback on all of our loans, and Steve's done an analysis that how much a month comes back in? Is it 50,000?
Just over 20,000 a month back in.
On loans. And we want to keep drawing down the SBA money so that we continue to have that revenue over time. But as we grow the loan fund, you can see there's a lot of work to keep the money on the street. And we did do a report that shows if we do between 500 and 600, Steve.
Yeah, it was 40,000 a month on the SBA is evergreen.
And on the CEDC,
I think it was 35.
yeah. So what we've tried to do is from a sales and marketing standpoint, what's our goal to get on the street on a monthly basis based on what's coming in and what we anticipate drawing down from the SBA, so that, if in fact the SBA program ever ended, we still have a $2 million county loan fund. And I don't think it will ever end because it's just what will be the competitive nature of getting the money. So if you look, we have $1.1 million to lend today. And I think that's helpful for the loan committee and the board and the finance committee to be aware of in the context of if we did bring in a $50,000 loan, or at one point we helped a not-for-profit who had a reimbursable grant from the USDA. We gave them $100 grand, but they assigned the proceeds of that grant to us. But then if you look at loans receivable, we have $1.2 million in the SBA loan and $1.3 million in the, $1.2 million in the CEDC loan, $1.3 million in the SBA loan. So that's $2.5 million. And if you add that together, we have a $3.6 million loan portfolio, which is up almost $400,000 from last year. But we did borrow, what, $750 from the IDA or from the SBA in the last 2 years, Martha? Correct. You can see our allowance for bad debt. Now, that's the write-off that we have to take on paper if a loan goes bad. But when you look at the $1.3 million that we owe the SBA, And you look at, down below, we have $300,000 of cash in reserve, for that loan fund. And you're not gonna have we've never had, I think we run it, what is it, 10% loan loss? And, you know, when we do the quarterly analysis, and the sensitivity is. And most of our loans are under the payments, even if the people at 50,000 are under $750 a month. We do, as I point out, $302,000 in reserve. And I'm getting this confused. Loans receivable from the SBA are $1.3 million. Loans payable to the SBA is $1.456 million. When we go back and look at our $5.3 million balance sheet, you see how dependent it is on the loan fund when you pull it out like this. The other 11 sheet I just handed out, this doesn't reflect how much we had available to lend. This only reflects what was outstanding. We're going to try to figure out if we have easily access to the data to add what was available to lend at the time. But you can see how Martha, has steadily maintained the loan fund from 2016 forward, and also how it's grown since 2021. When 2015, we probably should take those off for marketing purposes, but when I came, we wrote off, what, $400,000, Martha?
Yeah.
And it was primarily the monies that were advanced to the fish farm and to a prospective hotel out in Greenport.
Yeah.
But, I think the thought was, when someone new came, just clean up the balance sheet, and it's incredible what, we basic Martha and now with Steve's help, double the loan fund over that period of time. And this year, for the first time, we hit $100,000, more than $100,000 of interest income. We were $120,000, and we had budgeted 100. And we're also up back around $30,000 a year in interest income from banks, where at one in the height of the 0.001 interest on bank accounts. And we are continuing to work on bank fees. I think if we do an analysis now every month, let's see where it is here. I think it was around $3,000. When we look at the SBA loan fund, and we look at the CDBC loan fund, it's hard to justify taking a portion of the interest from the SBA fund for operations, because they're giving us a grant to pay us to run that loan fund. But the interest earned on it is ours. At this point, we've been using it to ensure that we have 15% available for any new tranches that we want to draw down. If we look at what we were just looking at, and if we owe, $1,450,000, we need $217,000 in the loan fund to have 15%, and we have a reserve of 302. You know, so we do have $80,000 of equity, if you will, there. And, you know, on the CEDC loan fund, you know, of the, 1.2 million outstanding, you know, we have seen, the community loan fund of the capital region takes 8% as a management fee. Now, the problem with that is, you know, that's more than you're bringing in interest, because we don't, now that we're charging 7.5% interest or 7.75, but when you were charging 3.5% to 5%, you can't take a fee greater than that. I'm thinking if we looked at taking 50% of the, of what we're earning in interest and put it in a reserve account, not put it in the operating account, but put it in a reserve account. So, you know, on a 1.2 million, you know, if we're at 8%, you know, take 50% of that interest and do it quarterly. See, and put it where we can either as a board designate it at some point, put it in the loan fund, or use it for cash. But I do think, you know, the goal was to get to where it was self-sustainable. And certainly we've doubled the loan fund. And I'm not suggesting that we make it easy for ourselves to just think we have $30,000 to $50,000 more a year in soft revenue. But I do think, and you know, we can always have the ability to sell the property, convert that to cash if we needed it. But I've always tried to have 1 year of county funding in the bank.
What would make you make that decision to sell that property in your?
Well, I think it would have to be someone coming to do something that was going to create jobs in the county. You know, you wouldn't just sell it to a speculator, you'd have to sell it to someone that, and, you know, it's 6 acres on just south of Kozels, just north of the sign shop. And it does have water, sewer, gas, and electric access, because it can be, it is as a common boundary with the Commerce Center.
Industrial park.
And I'm not worried about the cash, but, you know, and when I came, we had $750,000 in cash. And I felt that made the county think, well, why do you need our $460 a year? Take a year off and then never come back.
So you're just waiting to see an interesting project, really?
Well, and something that the county would support. You remember the county asked us to acquire that so they could build a building on it.
Yeah.
But when they found out what it was gonna cost, it was gonna be over $15 million. And it was going to be for the Meals on Wheels program and the healthcare consortium. And, you know, they ended up buying 11 Warren Street for $3.2 million. And the renovations there, I think, you know, they'll have about $8 million in it when they're done, and they'll have twice the space they would have had in the new. Now, they're not gonna put those two county agencies there, but.
Right.
But and again, if I go back and I say, okay, well, where were we on payables? And we're lower on payables than we were last year. Where are we on receivables? We're $70,000. You know, so of the 160,000, you know, we make up almost, we're about $80,000 below in cash where we were. And I just want to watch that. And we know it's not going anywhere, but to pay legitimate expenses. And if we had had the, if we had filled the position, it would be double that.
Yeah.
All set?
Yes.
Motion to approve the draft December financials.
Make a motion to.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Moving on.
Monthly portfolio report,
There's really nothing new to report. We'll be going over it with the loan committee in detail on the 13th.
and the consent agenda. We have these evaluations in front of us.
Evaluations look positive.
Yes, so review and recommends proposed procurement changes to thresholds for procuring goods and services, insurance, liability coverage. I think we should go over the procurement policy, and, you know, I think we comply with it. I don't know, maybe it was the way the question, was written. And, you know, review significant issues, complex or unusual transactions, recent professional and regulatory pronouncements. I guess at some point, you know, that could be someone on the full board. Hopefully it's not someone, but this is the committee that's voting. So there are things in these areas that you would like more information about. I'm happy to do it, but let's put the procurement policy review on the agenda. Right now, it's we follow what the state does. I think, you know, up to $2,000. You don't have to get a quote. If it's between 2 and 5, you have to get 3 verbal quotes. If it's above 5, you have to get 3 written quotes. I think sometimes we've ended up with 2. Well, I guess we got 3 for the, we got 2 for the phone and we got 3 for the IT. And then I have authority up to 5,000. And, you know, I guess, if they're vendors where you're buying, in the course of a year, you spend more than 5,000, but I have never exceeded 5,000 in any one, you know, maybe we should just do a run and show you how that, am I effectively going over that on an annual basis, and see whether there's some method of review. I mean, certainly if you approve a lease, you know, it's already been approved, but we have run in the past a vendor report. And, you know, our top eight, there are only 8 vendors over $10,000 a year. But why don't we do that for the next finance committee? Just so that there's an understanding of these things and it's transparent.
Anybody on from the public?
No, Rich is on, no public.
Rich, any questions?
No, I don't think so, Mike. Maybe just one on the more or less rainy day fund that you mentioned. The 30,000 that we would set aside.
Right.
What have we done with that in the past? Have we just put that into the general fund?
Are we talking about the loan loss reserve or the interest earned?
Interest earned.
What we've done is, I've always wanted, and Martha has too, to take all of the interest that's been earned on the loan fund over the past 10 years, we have put back in the loan fund. So we put over 600, we've increased the county loan fund by, and unfortunately, in 2016, the county loan fund was 984,000. It's now $1.2 million. And there's additional monies because this doesn't show what we have available to lend. So we put about $600,000 of interest from the county loan fund and the SBA loan fund into the county loan fund, so we had more principal to lend. And so we've never taken an administrative fee. And the intent there was to put an average of $60,000 a year in the loan fund so that it built up a greater corpus so it could be self-sufficient.
Yep.
With 10 or 15% loss rate, it would be evergreen. So I just think that, you know, there, in your packet, there is a report on page 14. Oh no, it's not 14. I am gonna get the new glasses, don't worry. Or the cataracts, I'm not sure. I guess we didn't have that. We'll have that report for the board meeting, But what it does, it shows income by class. And it shows if we made $60,000 and 100,000 came from the loan fund, you know, you really had an operating loss. If you're not using any of those funds, any of that interest income from the loan funds as part of the operation. But
Yeah.
I'll go into that with you at the board meeting, or I can have a call with you after the meeting.
Yeah, that sounds good.
It's, I think one of the things I'm concerned about is, we rely on membership, we rely on grants, we rely on SBA tranches. You know, I think we need to be alert going into a new administration. And, also, the county was extra generous, contracting with us for services, not in terms of value, but in terms of volume, because they had the COVID money. And, you know, they gave us, you know, 150 for Columbia Forward. They've given us 90 grand a year for 3 years for housing. They gave us $60,000 for broadband initially. And those funds aren't available to the county anymore. Right now, the county through November is down $1 million on sales tax. And, you know,
Ooh.
they did do it, and they did do a tax, I think it was a 3% decrease, the chairman mentioned yesterday on real property tax. So, you know, as you know, it's just, I just want to be alert and cautious.
Yeah. Yep.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Any further
Feel
questions?
feel better, everyone. Everyone's coughing and hacking like the rest of us.
That's why I said you see me.
Mike and I are leaning in.
We'll get it, they'll get it sometime.
I'm on the
Motion.
Brian, did you
Yeah,
vote on the portfolio?
No,
no, we didn't.
Thank you.
No.
I'll put forward a motion to approve the portfolio
I'll
report. Is there a
second
second? All in favor?
Hi.
The evaluation too. right?
Yep.
Just check.
Yep. Motion to adjourn,
Motion.
second, all in favor? You're adjourned.
Hi.
Thank you
Have a good
all.
one, everyone. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike. And you said line as to how much